At some point in the last few years, you felt it, a persistent low-grade anxiety you couldn't fully explain. You were informed, you were following the news, you were doing everything a responsible citizen does. That anxiety wasn't a side effect of being informed, it was the product being delivered. Today we explain exactly how that product is manufactured. Mass psychosis isn't a conspiracy theory, it's a documented psychological and sociological phenomenon with precise mechanisms. The psychologist Dr. Matthias de Smet formalized this as mass formation psychosis theory, building on a century of prior research. Today we're going to explore 5 triggers, each documented, each deliberately exploited, each operating on you right now. First, let's be clear about what mass psychosis is. This is a clinical definition, not a metaphor. It is a collective detachment from reality through shared psychological mechanisms. This isn't the same as mass hysteria, which is often a flash in the pan. Mass psychosis is more sustained, more structured, and more deliberately cultivatable. This is an ancient human pattern. In 1692, the Salem witch trials saw an educated Puritan community, genuine believers, descend into a collective delusion that produced real executions. In 1518, the dancing plague of Strasbourg had hundreds of people dance uncontrollably for weeks until dozens died of exhaustion, a pure collective psychological contagion with no rational explanation. Even the medieval Crusades were a mass mobilization of entire populations through a sustained fear narrative, the Islamic threat, combined with a promise of salvation. The first systematic study of this came in 1895 with Gustave Le Bon's book, The Crowd. He identified that individuals in crowds lose independent judgment, become highly suggestible, and respond to emotional rather than rational appeals. Le Bon wrote this 130 years ago. Every major propagandist of the 20th century, including those who used it for genocide, studied this book. It is the operating manual for mass psychosis. The core insight is this: mass psychosis doesn't require stupidity. It requires isolation, anxiety, and a narrative that explains the anxiety while directing it. The media didn't invent this, they industrialized it. The first trigger is manufactured isolation. Both Le Bon and de Smet identify that mass psychosis requires pre-existing social isolation. Isolated individuals are maximally vulnerable to a group narrative. Consider Weimar Germany. World War I devastated the social fabric, communities were destroyed, institutions discredited. The economic collapse of the 1920s deepened that isolation. The population was primed for any narrative that could offer a sense of belonging and an explanation for their pain. The Nazi movement provided both, with catastrophic results. Hitler didn't create isolated, anxious Germans, he found them. The isolation came first, the psychosis followed. The modern mechanism is more subtle. We see the decline of community institutions, churches, civic organizations, local associations. These are replaced by a digital pseudo-community, where online connections simulate belonging without actually providing it. The result is a population experiencing unprecedented levels of isolation while appearing maximally connected. Before mass psychosis can be triggered, the crowd must first be atomized. Isolated individuals don't form communities, they form audiences. Audiences are far easier to program. The second trigger is free-floating anxiety. Dr. de Smet's key insight is that anxiety without a clear object is uniquely exploitable. A specific fear, like a tiger in the room, produces a clear response: run. But a diffuse anxiety, the sense that something is deeply wrong, that civilization is declining, has no clear response, making people maximally manipulable. Think of the 1930s. The Great Depression created a diffuse economic anxiety across the Western world. Nobody could clearly identify the cause or the solution, so multiple movements, fascism, communism, nationalism, offered clear, simple narratives. The populations latched on to whichever narrative their media delivered most consistently. The anxiety was real, the narratives were manufactured, the catastrophes that followed were historical fact. Today's media mechanism feeds this,
breaking news alerts for non-breaking events, threat levels that never decrease but only shift their targets. The coverage is designed to maintain anxiety at a precise level, high enough to keep your attention, but low enough to prevent you from taking any real action. Free-floating anxiety is the raw material. Modern life creates plenty of it. Media shapes it, directs it, and most importantly, maintains it at optimal commercial levels. The third trigger is repetition, which weaponizes a flaw in our psychology called the illusory truth effect. A 1977 study by Hasher, Goldstein, and Topino found that statements were rated as more true simply through repetition. It doesn't matter if a statement was previously identified as false. Sheer repetition can override prior knowledge. The Nazi propagandist minister Joseph Goebbels didn't invent the big lie. He systematized repetition science. He hammered the same phrases, the same framing across every media channel simultaneously. Goebbels studied American advertising before he studied politics. The techniques that sold soap sold genocide. During the Cold War, American and Soviet propaganda both used identical repetition mechanisms, different content, identical psychological technique. Both populations became genuinely convinced of narratives that objective observers found absurd. The modern mechanism doesn't need a central command. The 24-hour news cycle needs endless content, and repetition fills it. Algorithmic amplification on social media rewards themes that are already repeating. Cross-platform coordination happens organically, producing a Goebbels effect without a coordination room. You can probably quote phrases that dominated coverage for months. You heard them thousands of times. That's not because they were important. It's because repetition made them feel important. The illusory truth effect doesn't care about facts. It cares about frequency. Repeat anything enough times across enough channels, and it becomes reality for the audience. This isn't an opinion. It's a replicable psychological finding. It's been replicated on you. The fourth trigger is simplification and binary framing. Complex reality requires cognitive effort to navigate. Binary framing eliminates that effort and critical thinking right along with it. Every complex issue gets reduced to with us or against us, safe or dangerous, good or evil. A key historical anchor is McCarthyism in the 1950s. The genuinely complex question of Soviet infiltration was reduced to a simple binary. You were either a communist or a patriot. This framing destroyed careers, silenced legitimate debate, and actually damaged national security by creating a hysteria that obscured real threats. The binary didn't clarify the threat. It made the threat invisible by making everything the threat. During World War I, every single participating nation used the same technique. For the Germans, it was civilization versus the barbarian hordes. For the British, freedom versus Prussian militarism. Every side was defending civilization. Every side was fighting barbarism. The binary was the lie on all sides simultaneously. The modern mechanism is driven by technology. Nuance doesn't travel well on social media, but a binary conflict does. Algorithms reward emotional, binary content over complex, accurate content. Binary framing isn't just intellectually lazy, it's psychologically addictive. The brain rewards certainty. Media delivers certainty. You consume it. The complexity that might save you from being wrong gets edited out before publication. The fifth trigger is social proof and consensus manufacturing. As social animals, we look to others to determine reality. The psychologist Robert Cialdini documented that in uncertain situations, social proof overrides our own personal judgment. The Asch conformity experiments are the classic demonstration. An incredible 75% of participants denied obvious visual evidence simply because a group of actors confidently gave the wrong answer. This wasn't stupidity, it was social proof overriding their own sensory data. These participants could see the correct answer. The group made them unsee it. That's social proof operating at full power. In the Soviet show trials of the 1930s, innocent defendants publicly confessed to crimes they didn't commit. It wasn't just torture, it was a social proof mechanism. If everyone says you're guilty, the state, the media, the public, your internal reality can actually shift. The modern media manufactures this consensus. Phrases like experts agree are used without naming the experts or examining their methodology. The phrase everyone knows is an assertion of consensus that helps create the consensus. Polls are selectively reported, and when every platform messages the same thing simultaneously, it creates the powerful illusion of an independent, organic consensus. Manufactured consensus is self-fulfilling. Show people that everyone agrees, and more people will agree. The spiral of silence does the rest. Dissenters go quiet. Their quiet is interpreted as agreement, and agreement is manufactured from silence.
These 5 triggers don't operate separately. They form a closed loop. Isolation makes individuals dependent on media for their social reality. Free-floating anxiety makes them receptive to any narrative that explains their world. Repetition makes that narrative feel true. Binary framing makes dissent from the narrative feel dangerous, and social proof makes the consensus feel inevitable. For a chilling example of the complete system running, look at Nazi Germany. All 5 triggers were deployed simultaneously and deliberately. The result was an educated, sophisticated population participating in industrial genocide. This wasn't a population of monsters. It was a population that had been systematically isolated, anxious, repetitively messaged, binary framed, and socially proofed into a collective detachment from moral reality. The same system ran during the Maoist Cultural Revolution. Same 5 triggers, different ideology, same mechanism. Students denouncing teachers, children denouncing parents. Mass psychosis doesn't require evil people. It requires the system operating correctly. Think about the last time you felt that the stakes of a disagreement were existential, that expressing doubt made you dangerous, that the other side wasn't just wrong, but monstrous. That was the system running, not on them, on you, on everyone simultaneously. The 5-trigger system produces mass psychosis without requiring a control room. Aligned incentives, shared platforms, and human psychology do the work automatically. The most terrifying version isn't the deliberate one, it's the emergent one. Mass psychosis isn't what happens to other people in other times. It's what happens to humans when specific conditions are met. Those conditions are being met continuously, commercially, at industrial scale. The antidote is not a political position. It is a psychological practice. First, delay your emotional response. Psychosis operates through immediate emotional reaction. 12 hours changes everything. Second, seek the suppressed dissent. In every manufactured consensus, find who was silenced and why. Third, name the binary. Whenever an issue feels like only 2 options exist, the framing is the manipulation. Fourth, distinguish anxiety from information. Ask yourself, does consuming this make me more capable of action or just more anxious? And fifth, choose physical community over digital community. Le Bon identified isolation as the prerequisite. Genuine community is the structural defense. The defense against mass psychosis was never more information. It was always more independence, not independence of others, independence of thought within genuine community. That's what they had before the screen replaced the square.